What's up? Cool. So my name's Robyn Canner. I've lived in a lot of different places, but I'm from Fairfield, Maine, USA. It's a cool little, small little town. If you're queer and cool with it, you want to raise your hand for a second? Yeah, that rules. What's up? This talk's for you. Everybody else, hi. So I want to tell you a story about a girl that I knew who grew up on the internet. The internet was her favorite space in the entire world. It's like where she learned how to carve out her space as a human being. And it's not like she wasn't able to do that in real life, just like it was always removed a little bit. So she found herself on the internet a ton. She actually learned the majority of her womanhood on the internet, right? So she learned how to deal with weird interactions in the supermarket on the internet. She learned how to figure out what hormones her body needed, so how to take Spiro, or what sticking an estrogen needle in her life would be like. So she learned all this stuff on the internet at a really young age. Of course, there was nothing wrong with her being a girl. I'm sure some of you are women here too. But the problem was when she told people that she was a girl, wasn't really met with a ton of joy, right? And because of that, she had to disassociate. When she disassociated, it created a bunch of weird things in her life. Because she was like, well, if I can't be a girl, then maybe I'll just drink or do drugs, but she's pretty young, so that's a bad idea. So she's like, no, maybe love will solve this, right? I could just fall in love with somebody, and it would be so great to have them cure all this stuff for me. But then that didn't work either. So she finally went back to the internet, and she was like, what do I do? And the internet was like, no problem, answered this question before. And they gave her two options. The first option was that she could just black out, kind of put it in the back burner, deal with it at a later date, right? And the second option was that she could bail and go to New York or San Francisco. She was in rural America and she was 15. There was no way she was about to leave her home in life, right? She blacked out. The thing about blacking out is it can be not the healthiest decision, right? And as you work through this, you have to develop these things called coping mechanisms to work through your blackout. So again, she started drinking, she started doing drugs, she started working through all these really hard things. And she was doing it all alone, which left her feeling really conflicted about the whole world. Eventually though, she got stubborn. And when she got stubborn, she was able to get what she needed. And the more stubborn she was able to be, the more she started taking more risks with her identity, the more she wasn't willing to make compromises with herself. And she got access. Now the cool thing about that story is it's about me. And I'm here because I made this site called My Trans Health. My Trans Health is a resource designed to help trans people get access to quality healthcare. Basically, our whole thing is that trans and gender non-conforming people deserve culturally competent healthcare, as all of you do who aren't trans here too, right? So it's pretty basic, core human concept. And we launched this site by basically doing a Kickstarter/YouTube video. And it was just me talking about my own experience that I just shared with you. And basically how I heard from therapists over and over again that they didn't have the tools for me, which is what a shitty therapist would tell you. But we also put 9 other trans people in a camera setting, and they said the similar thing. So we kind of thought that we had a concept that might be able to drive home. We could figure out how to get resources for this thing. And once we got Kickstarter materials ready together, we were like, okay, this is good, but are designers going to care about this? Do I give a shit what designers think? Am I only care about the people that I'm affecting? But I wanted to figure out a way to get a cultural conversation around trans healthcare to happen. And we decided to do something pretty unique in that we launched the week Caitlyn Jenner came out. Now, I have the most complicated feelings about her in this entire world, probably more than most folks here. But there was something about it though. She gave us space to steal her spotlight. And when it came to so many DIY things happening in the trans world at that time, resources were so limited and it was so difficult to even get a seat at the table. So with her sort of leverage, we took this idea that Teak Milan had, and he gave this talk at a Philly Trans Health Conference. And he basically said, you gotta Kanye this moment. And I was like, holy shit, dude, you're right. That's cool. I love Kanye. So he got on stage, right? And he was like, Caitlyn, I'm gonna let you finish, but 19% of us have experienced abuse from our own families. It can be weird to parse out data, right? But 19% of an entire community had experienced mental and physical abuse from their own families. That's fucked up. Caitlin, I'm gonna let you finish, but 41% of us have tried to kill ourselves. Also not a good stat. Like, it's not, like, it's just a really complicated thing, right? And we're cool that Caitlin was able to transition and get her things that she needed, like, that's rad. But there's a cultural conversation happening with an entire community, and it's not being met under this umbrella of just like a rich white old woman transitioning. And then for us in particular, Caitlin, I'm gonna let you finish, but we still need fucking access to quality healthcare. The press ate this shit up. That was cool, right? Like, I was just like, holy shit, this thing's working, that's cool. I was a freelancer at the time, like barely getting by, and I was like, wow, Business Insider just called me brilliant. That's a weird feeling. And with every sort of press came with like pieces being like, well, tell me about a story of your life, right? Like, they couldn't just cover the product like you would cover a weather app. Like, they wanted to pry a piece out of me for it. So I couldn't ever get press for free without them taking a piece of me. And I gave it all to them, right? Because I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, well, you can have all these stories, like every single one of them, you get them all. But the problem with that was I wasn't like done working through any of them. So my misery basically became a sight to see for people to consume. And I was still working through it. So when I'm going on like these interviews with publications and I'm talking about like the time that I tried to kill myself, or the time that I was sexually assaulted, or the time that I couldn't get access to hormones and just like was barely getting by, I was just giving those stories away for free. And I hadn't even gone to therapy to deal with it. And moreover, like, there's an entire population of designers and people who are so fucking obsessed with coming up with the most witty and inclusive restroom sign when I can't even think about a more useless problem to solve in the trans community. And like, let's be real about this, it's gonna take a lot more than a new icon to save trans lives. And moreover, like, I feel so fragile about this entire community. Like, it's an entire community built on trust. It's built on like making sure you deliver the right thing in the right way. It's making sure that like, it's not too corporate. There's all these like sort of breaks within the community, right? And I know it's fragile, right? And I'm still dealing with my own shit. I freaked out. Like, there was no way for me to possibly design this thing as well as I wanted to, knowing what was going on in my life. And like, as the press kind of died down, as I calmed through, I started to do two different things to help me work through it. The first is I volunteered for a suicide hotline. Trans Lifeline does fantastic work, they're great. And I was able to talk to tons of trans people throughout the months that I worked on this product about the stuff that they were going through. One night in particular, I took a call from a 14-year-old in Iowa, like rural Iowa. It was like, I'm a trans girl and I can't get anything. And I could feel the panic in their breath. Like, I felt it so deep within me because it was a panic that I knew. And I was like, no, it's cool. Like, I'll just Google some stuff for you and we'll figure out like a therapist that will talk to you. And like, it was like, that was the site working just in a very analog way. And I was like, okay, well, that's working. But like, there was a panic in their voice. So whatever I design, it has to be cool and calm. Like, I can't bum you out. I can't make you feel bad about being trans. I gotta just like make sure that you're comfortable and like maybe even a little excited about doing this thing. And the second thing is, I told you guys I was broke. I was camgirling while I made this site. Like, it was before I got scooped up by big tech. I was just kind of like making it through. So at nights, I would basically cam and like hook off like with men and just get paid to do that while I was designing this site. The cool thing about that experience is that like, if you want to get like into user research for like this product, this is where it's at. Like, there are trans girls in this community and they're dealing with real life shit and they do not have a ton of resources. And like, they'll tell you exactly what's working and what's not working in a very quick and clear way. And it was like at the point where I had like a working prototype and I was just like, I feel really smooth about this UI, right? Like, this thing looks cool. And I sent it over to one of the cam girls. I was like, hey, tell me what you think. And she was like, looks cool, too slow, gotta go, bye. Like, she was looking to get paid and I was like, fuck yeah, get yours. But like, in the process, I was like, whoa, I need to make sure that this site is fast. So I couldn't like bog you down into question. I had to get you in and get you out. So you got what you needed and you were able to go on with your life. So coupling that idea of like delight with speed, I got obsessed with the design and I stopped thinking about my own personal shit. I just let it go and put it in the background. And the more I let go, the more I was able to do stuff like this. So I was starting with user research and I was tackling that. Played with the UX, the UI, the interface. I figured out, all the complicated bits that come with designing any product, right? And a cool thing happened. few months later, we looked up and we had a site. We're in 6 locations right now with 450 providers, including San Francisco. By the end of like this month / early next month, we'll be with this new site design, and we'll have 1,000 providers in 20 locations. Good thing too is it won't be just coastal. So like we went to Evansville, Indiana, and we talked to people about how they do like trans healthcare. So we're really excited about that, and we felt good. Like it was just like, holy shit, like this is awesome. No. It was like we were riding this super high mountain and then it was just getting punched in the face. It screwed up everything. And it was weird because like, I didn't know what to do, right? It was just like, well, this site is good, but not that great. Like we're dealing with an entire government. And I started to think about like, just like everything that was happening. And one day I was like kind of leaving to go to work and I had my hand on like a doorknob and I was getting ready to leave my apartment. And I heard like the people like I live in like one of those hotel buildings. So there's like a lot of different complexes in the space. And I heard this couple fighting, like really fighting, going at it. And she's like screaming at this guy, being like, I can't believe you fucking cheated on me. I couldn't believe like you hurt me. And she's crying, like losing her mind, crying. And I sat there and I was just listening to it. And at first I was listening to make sure that she was okay. But then I just found myself listening because I realized that like I hadn't felt that like in a real way. Like it wasn't that I was like envious of her hurt, but I was envious that she was able to be hurt. Like at some point in her life, she learned to be vulnerable enough in a relationship to be hurt. And this guy screwed her over and that sucks, but she felt it and it was so real. And I started to think about the kids who are going to transition right now during this administration, beyond just my trans health, right? Like, what about the kids and like the lessons they're learning from a community right now about how they grew up? Like, what lingers? Because the stuff that I went through still was kind of in the back of my head. Like, I worked through a lot of it, but it's kicking in there. So all this cultural conversation around bathrooms, that doesn't just go away. That continues and stays with them, which is complicated because like, we'll be over this issue in a few months, but that will linger with them for the rest of their lives. And we gotta be better. So here's how we do that. It's a fun little segment that I like to call How to Show the Fuck Up. It's a 5-parter. The first is to be a micro designer. So the people in this room, you're all very good at what you do, right? Trans people are also really good at what we do. And when it comes to this stuff, we have like a lot of thoughts and a lot of ideas and a lot of like projects that we want to work on to help our own community. That big macro vision stuff, the concept, the direction, the influence, that's on us. We can do that. But when it comes down to resourcing, we might need some help at times. So if you do run into somebody who's working on something and like could use some help like doing some data entry or like whatever it is, be that person. Just show up and be like, oh no, it's cool. Like I got 10 extra hours, it's fine. Like we'll help you out and get through that. So be a micro designer. 2, you can just give your money to people. Like that's kind of like a cool thing, right? So Transgender Law Center, Trans Women of Color Collective, and Trans Lifeline, they all do such good work in the community and like they just need resources to keep it up. So give your money to people. You all have the internet. Google these people. The third thing, despite like all of our wishes in this whole world, elected officials actually don't give a shit about our feelings. But what they do give a shit about is our vote. So call them, let them know. This is your state governor in California. You can call them today and be like, hey, just want to let you know, you don't get my vote next time unless you show up for trans kids, for trans youth, for trans women, for trans men. Like, you just don't get it. That's going to get their attention. That will get them to do things. Number 4, diversity in tech, LOL. Diversity in tech matters. I'm with you, I'm there. But what really matters is diversity in leadership. Like if you're hiring a bunch of interns out, like good for you, like that's awesome. But are those interns in leadership meetings where decisions get made? Because that's where that voice really matters. So for sure, hire diverse people. I'm 100% with you. But when somebody calls you out, when you put them in the room, you listen to every fucking word that they say. Number 5, this is a 3-parter. Give all your money to Latina trans women. All of it, everything you own. Give all your money to brown trans women. You can split this up, there's a lot of people here, it's chill. Give all your money to black trans women. If you look at like history of any sort of resistance across any year whatsoever, it comes down to trans women of color. Like that is where every fucking core idea comes out of. You look at the work of Sylvia Rivera, you look at the work of Marsha P. Johnson, even contemporaries now like Laverne Cox or Janet Mock. These are the people that are putting in the work, right? It's them. So like I can stand up here as like a white trans girl and talk about my trans health, and for sure, it's a good thing. But that whole project does not exist without Teak Milan, it does not exist without Janet Mock, it does not exist without all these people. So give all your money to them. Thanks.